My pleasure to introduce Sharon Moss, our next speaker. Sharon has been an atheist activist for as long as I've known her, which is when she came to Ohio State and joined Students for Free Thought and went on to become its president. And Sharon is a walking, breathing example of somebody who was brought into the atheist humanist movement during her college days and then graduated and went on to stay involved, well, after a brief hiatus, with the sort of off-campus humanist atheist movement. So she is an excellent and authoritative speaker on her topic, which is atheism after college. So please join me in welcoming Sharon Moss.
Awesome, thanks. I'm sure that I am loud enough. That's sort of a feature. So anyway, how do I make things go?
Right key.
Oh, look at that, the right key. Anyway, so, as opposed to the wrong key. So you may, think that, college is neat and you'll be there forever. Certainly, it took me 5 years to get my degree. It, probably seemed like it at some points. So, but anyway, sooner or later, you will not be a college student anymore. Bummer. Who knows, just generally speaking, who has more affiliates, the Secular Student Alliance or everybody else off campus?
Everybody else?
Everybody else, yeah, that looks kind of like it, doesn't it? Like, if you look at the Secular Student Alliance, these are total reported U.S. affiliates. The Secular Student Alliance has 194 in the U.S. as of like a week ago. I haven't checked. They get more every now and then. What do we got? Atheist Alliance International has about 31 affiliates. The combined campus, Center for Inquiry, Council for Secular Humanism kind of thing, based on their website, is about 73, including the CFI centers and secular humanist groups and things like that. American Atheist has about 113, and the American Humanist Association has about 134 in the U.S. That's not counting anybody overseas. That's not counting things like the Ethical Culture Society or the Society for Humanistic Judaism either. I just kind of decided that they've got about 20 or 30 apiece. We can work with what we got here. So yes, they have ginormously more off-campus organizations than secular student groups, right? Yeah? Everybody agrees that's more? If you look at all those affiliates, if you just deduplicate the lists, because there is no law saying that my group, the Humanist Community of Central Ohio, can only affiliate with one national organization. As a matter of fact, affiliating with many is awesome. You get more resources, more awesomeness. We're affiliated with American Atheists and the American Humanist Association. So yeah, you deduplicate that, you're down to 217 off campus versus 194. Then the story gets a little sadder. I know I'm here to bring you down, but I'm going to bring you back up, I promise. It's cool. Does anyone know what the SSA does that most of the other nationals do not do? That isn't Jesse or Liz. That isn't catering to students, because that's kind of obvious. Don.
Are you talking about the affiliate report?
Yeah. Would you say that louder?
The affiliation report, where we check in on the groups and have them tell us what's going on, how they're doing, what they know about, how they know about it.
So how many of you, like a month ago, how many of you local leaders got a pesky email from Liz that was like, "Hi, are you there?" Yeah, the American Atheists or the American Humanist Association has never called me up and gone, "Hi, are you still alive?" So funny thing this summer, the awesome intern Nate, when the SSA made those wonderful brochures that are out there, they said, "Hey, these brochures would be really awesome for off-campus groups too. They could really use these. We should maybe contact them." So Nate put together an email, and I think Nick and Nick helped. Nick and Nate. We just call them Nick Nate. They put together an email, sent it out. Nick and Nate collected all this information, deduplicated the list, so I didn't have to go do this, and sent out an email saying, "Hi, we're the Secular Student Alliance. Do you exist? Is this your address?" 76 responded. And that is not and I'm calling those verified because that is the closest thing we have to verifying whether or not those groups exist. You sent them an email and said, "Hi, is this your address?" And they responded and said yes or no. So that's the closest thing we have. So now we're looking at, 76 versus 194 that have roughly the same kind of, verification, roughly. So that's my sad story for you. The uplifting side of this story is that because no one is out there watching, groups take different forms. And this actually is a really bad metric of judging how many groups are out there. Because there's things like meetup.com. Meetup.com self-verifies. Someone is paying to keep that Meetup account alive. You can only buy Meetup account time in, I think the largest chunk is 6 months. And it's like $75 for that 6 months. So someone is paying money to have that group be on Meetup. So chances are that group is doing something. And in the US, there are 481 off-campus Meetup groups. And this is anything from, I think in Cleveland, there is a non-profit, PROPHET, adventure club. There's a bunch of atheists that go hiking. That is what they do. That is, that is it. So this is everybody from those kind of special interest, smaller groups, to groups that have, budgets of $80,000 a year, have a building, have a board structure, and everything in between. So that is my story on off-campus groups. And also we pointed out that what you have now is a very dark picture of Liz that is way less dark on my screen than that one. What we sort of brought up is that, yes, no one is watching the off-campus groups and seeing if they need help and seeing what they're doing. So once you graduate, you don't get that anymore. You have no Liz anymore. And this is a bummer. But and we used to tell you, I don't know how many people, if you've been to a couple events, anything outside of Secular Student Alliance, if you've ever made it to an American Humanist Association conference or, been around an off-campus group local to you, yeah, oh, you're just telling me that you have? Cool, sorry. It's participatory, it's cool. You've probably heard the rumor that those are just a bunch of old people out there, and that really you graduate and you get what you have here. That's what awaits you once you graduate. I know, it's awesome, it's a feature. You're like, oh crap, I've graduated, I've got to go hang out with my grandma in my local group, and this really sucks. I'm going to go to the moon because this is really lame. That's not true anymore. There's a lot going on in the local groups that is also very dark on this screen. It's a total bummer. Liz is going to rescue me from my darkness. Oh, bright. Woo! Yeah, no, better, yes, no. Meh. All right. Well, whatever. We'll work with it. If you can't figure out, these are all wonderful smiling faces under the age of, say, 50 in various local groups around the country. That's what it is. There are groups like Minnesota Atheists that are huge and do awesome outreach. The Cash group is here. Yeah, MNA. There's like Beltway Atheists in DC area that are kicking ass. There's and actually I lied to you because if you're me, you still get Liz, but only if you're me. Because Liz is very active in her local group here as well. So my story is that there are things out there for the taking once you graduate. There are places for you to go. There are smiling faces that would love to have you. There are groups with things for your potential future children to do. As you can see down here, potential future children being adorable and freethinkery. There are your bar events. There are service projects. There's a Beltway Atheist doing highway cleanup in the middle. There's some canoeing up there. There's all sorts of awesome stuff going on. And we need you because no one else is going to do this for you anymore. And, I could totally just come up here and be like, well, in my day, I had to roll my campus group up the hill both ways in the snow. Because, when I started 10 years ago, the SSA was very small and very non-existent yet, and we were still learning how to do a lot of these things that you just have. But I'm not going to do that to you because that's boring. So if you figured out how to do things like organized weekly meetings, large events like Richard Dawkins, or service projects or parties even, if you've figured out how to develop a kick-ass community, if you've advertised or fundraised like a fundraised like a ninja pirate, if you have these skills, we need you. Because a lot of times you've spent more time being trained to do these things than we have. You know, we, the off-campus people. You know, we are just trying to go it on our own and figure this stuff out. And there's a whole crop of students that, like, you've done this stuff. All right, yeah. The other one that's really important. And I was trying to be nice here, and actually I was going to make a joke and say, like, it shouldn't be develop Zen-like patience with the public, it should be with your parents. Because if you can go home and have a conversation with your family about what your atheist group does, you can probably manage people that are older than you, which is what is going to happen. Because you're in this little bubble where everyone around you in your campus group is probably within 4 years of your age. You know, there's a couple stragglers that just don't know what they want to do and haven't graduated or have come back or whatever. But most of these people are within, you know, which is awesome, keep doing it. But most of the people you interact with are within that 4 years of your age. Not when you graduate. There are people in my group that are younger than me. I'm 29. There are people in my group that are younger than me. There are people in my group that could be my parents' age. There are people in my group that are my grandparents' age. And I have to tell them what to do. Which brings me to the challenges that you'll face if you decide to go on and participate in a local campus group. Like I said, there's a lot of variation in the type and size of groups that are out there. Student groups tend to not come in very many varieties because the school sets the tone of what they're going to look like. So your campus ski group and your campus atheist group probably have a similar structure. Like I said before, not so much with off-campus. You can do whatever you want. You're going to work with more diversity, and specifically, like I said, that age diversity. And turns out like it's a useful skill, because when you go into the real world and get a job, you're probably also going to be working with people not in your age range anymore. And there's those wonderful toxic personalities that you've probably dealt with in your campus group. It's a little bit different when that person is not your peer anymore. It's a little harder to look at someone and that, you know, you're like, oh man, I'm telling my grandma to get the hell out of my group. You know, like, it's harder. But there are rewards. You know, 5 years ago, if I'd given this talk when I graduated from OSU, which this is like OSU alumni hour, go Caroline. You know, if you would have come up and been like, hey, how do I get an awesome job in the secular movement? I would have been like, well, don't, wait around for the like one opening in a national that comes along every year. You know, like, good luck with that. Get an internship, be more awesome than all the other interns trying to be awesome and get the same job as you. But now, there's a lot more need for local organization, and the local groups are more organized. They're growing like crazy, just like the on-campus movement is growing like crazy. But when we grow like crazy, we have people with real jobs that want to give us money to grow like crazy. And that is a game changer. So you can do things like become a humanist celebrant and marry people, and people will pay you to do that. It's crazy. You know, it's like you can make $200 like hanging out with $300, $500 if you're like awesome, you know, once you get good at it. Just showing up to people's weddings, drinking their booze, and marrying them. You know, if you live in a large city, you could make a full-time job out of this. And, you know, if you live in even a medium-sized city, you could probably make a decent part-time living doing that. You can be awesome like Greg Epstein and Barry Clausell and be... John Fictor's like, no, you don't want to do that. Because there are people on several campuses now that are getting paid to be chaplains at the university, to be humanist chaplains at the university. That's cool, right? Like, paid to hang out at a university, run humanist group, like, sweet. You never have to graduate. There are people like Jeff Seaver here and Jennifer Behan that work at CFI Michigan, yeah. They are paid to run CFI Michigan. You know, you're not going to get rich, But there are communities out there that have that capability. Not like a ton, but it's happening. And if you're just like, no, dude, I really want to go be a lawyer or a doctor or a mail clerk or a postman, or you don't have to get a job in the movement because it is really hard still. But there are groups out there like the Humanist Association in Phoenix. They're doing things like they bought a building and they're fixing it up so they can house 300 people for meetings in this building, have a children's center, have a library, have an office. They're out there.
Not for long, Jan Kruger's still around.
I never said there would not be weird local politics. That comes with learning to be a professional and just keep going no matter what happens. But, or you can be like Amanda. Run your local group awesomely, get involved at the national level, vote for her if you're an AHA member for the board next year if you haven't done so already. So there are opportunities. There are things for you to do out there. So that's it. Go do stuff when you graduate.
We have 5 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions for Sharon? Yeah?
How much harder is it to generate funding for an out-of-school group, an off-campus group, than it would be to, because we can get funding through SSA or we can get funding through our campus student government. Is it harder to generate funding when it's basically donations from your members, isn't it?
It is not only, I know, and I did not mean to insinuate that the national organizations were not paying attention, were any way, shape, or form useless. There are grants out there that you can apply for. We just got a $2,000 grant to revamp our whole PR scheme, including new website, new logos, all that good stuff. But it is way easier to get money from your membership than it is when you're a college student. If you ask, even if you don't ask, I took over HCCO, people have been giving us, $20, $30 a month regularly without even being asked to do so. It's just what they do. You put out a donation box in an event. You hold a meeting like this many people, half as many people show up. Say that row right there is the chunk of people that showed up at my meeting, my event that I just had. At the beginning, I say, hey, actually I make Liz do it, thank you for coming. We're about to have our speaker. We really could use some donations. We're going to pass a hat around. You do not feel obligated to donate. However, your donations help keep our office going, keep these awesome programs going. We routinely get $100, at a meeting. So it's it's different, but there are still plenty of opportunities. And I think, Amanda, do you want to add or?
Yeah, it's awesome because you can charge membership fees.
Yeah.
You can create annual and you can create lifetime membership. We actually had a member who said, I don't want to pay annually, I want to pay a one-time fee. How much would it cost me? We said, $600. He said, okay, but I want to add my wife to that. We said, $900? And he said, okay, the check's in the mail. So that's how we got $900. And then somebody else said, we want to do that too. So then we had $1,800. So it was really great. And we did the same thing. We wanted to do a bus ad about a year ago. And we sent an email and said, this is the bus ad we're going to do. And we need this much money. We had it in less than 2 weeks. So, and then once we did the bus ad, we made back the money because of all the controversy. So, and then we do put out a donation box. And people come by and they're like, we need to. And we're like, well, we respect your right to freedom of speech. So, it's really great. And we do swag too. We do bracelets and things like that. And we get it really cheap because we're a nonprofit. We got our 501(c)(3) status, which you can do too. And that means that everything's tax free. And then we sell it. And so we get it really cheap and then we sell it and then we can tax fund. So it's awesome. You need a lawyer in your group. So don't let everybody do that. So make sure somebody's an accountant and somebody's a lawyer and then you're covered. But no, it's really great. And then also partners. You know how you talked about partners? You can get grants from all these national organizations. We're an affiliate of every single organization.
Oh, yeah.
We put up there.
Affiliate promiscuously.
We're an organization. We've done this, and this, and we need money. And they're like, hell yeah.
Yeah, and if you have 501(c)(3) status, you can do a lot more than you can as not. There are local grants you can apply for in your city. There's
everything that everybody gives you, they get for tax deduction. So then you sell it. Everything you give us is tax deductible. And they're like, really? We're like, yeah. And then
Anyway, so Leslie, you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I'm curious, what's the one thing that you learned in your post-student involvement that you wish you would have known as a student, and can you share it with us?
That I wish I would have known as a student. Have more patience. I mean, honestly, like, I sort of was like, yeah, I know how to do all this stuff, and I am going to show you the way, and you are going to listen to me, and we are going to be awesome. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't really work so hot when you show up at a local group that's never seen you before. You've got to, like, finesse it a little, and you've got to, like, the biggest thing is if you are in a situation where you have an off-campus group that really is that kind of stereotypical, like, all retirees, you don't have to go to their meetings. You can approach them and be like, hey, I would really love to help you attract some younger people. Do you mind if I run a Drinking Skeptically or a Skeptics in the Pub or a Atheist Pub Night or discussion? I know, we're all drinking all the time, but like, or a hiking trip or something that would attract younger people, and would you advertise that if I did it? Like, so you don't have to, like, just all become best friends forever immediately.
Hammett, last question.
Do you think there will be more or fewer jobs as like professional atheists in the future?
I think that the local movement, local organizations have a lot of potential to have a lot of jobs. My group here is growing. A couple of years ago, I felt like I was kind of pulling it along. Now I'm chasing it because we're doing more than volunteers can reasonably do, and there's a need for more professionalism. And I think that locally creating those communities are really going to be where the jobs are, and there's really going to be an explosion. And I'm going to be a jerk and take Derek's question.
Fine.
I just wanted to say that there are often a lot of opportunities to become leaders in those off-campus organizations. Right after I graduated from college, I became the vice president and then later the president of the Humanist community. I was the youngest one they ever had. And that was, people are ready for somebody fresh sometimes. They want something new.
It's a proud tradition.
And I'd like to get involved.
And if you, and I'm going to, one more thing that I learned that did go right for me is that one thing that August did very well, he was the president of Students for Free Thought when I came and joined in the fall of '99 or so, is there was already an established relationship with the off-campus group. So when I graduated, I knew those people, and they weren't scary, even though, like, I was sort of like, well, how am I going to interact with you now? And Og did mention and admit that I did go to the moon for a couple of years, which you can skip the going to the moon phase and just go graduate, get involved. It's a joke. All right, you're done.
The joke is funnier if you flip to Sharon's page. In her handout, it talks about going to the moon. Anyway, there's a cute little picture, and you get to draw a dinosaur. So that's fantastic. All right, Debbie, need you up here to do AV setup, and we'll get started as soon as we've got that. And yeah, thank you very much. Welcome. Awesome job.